I'm Mike Uyek. I love to try new things, and I've had culinary adventures all around the world, as well as right at home. I've had really wonderful food, as well as some really horrible food. I'd like to share some of my adventures with you, and we'll see if I have what it takes to fix whatever goes wrong. This is Recipe Redemption. Greetings and salutations, Redeemers, and welcome to this edition of Recipe Redemption. I wanted to talk about gear because I got a lot of sort of positive feedback on my knife episode, and I wanted to talk about children's knives. Children's knives. The thought kind of scares me, but I get it, and in principle, I approve of this. Getting your kids, getting your whole family into the kitchen with you to cook, teaching your kids how to cook, is an admirable thing. It's a good thing. Everyone should have at least the basic skills to feed themselves. I'm a little torn on the concept of plastic children's knives, children's kitchen knives. On the one hand, you want to get them to the kitchen as early as possible. This says it's for ages 5 and above. And they're safety kitchen knives. Now they are serrated. We'll see if the camera can actually focus on this. Sunlight's coming in the window here, so let's see if you can see that. They are serrated. But they're not particularly sharp. And so, I can saw away on my hand all day, and I will not cut myself. That's a little irritating. But, if they're not sharp, if they don't actually cut meat, what good are they? Well, let's find out.
This particular brand comes with 3 different sizes. As you can see here, the handles are a little bit smaller. They're meant to fit a child's hand. They're all serrated equally. They're just slightly different sizes. I'm going to go with the largest one because that's the closest to a standard kitchen knife that you're going to get. Again, serrated will not cut my hand. And it's possibly because, well, one is just not sharp, but also the skin is just bouncy enough or stretchy enough that the serrations don't have a chance to catch on anything. That's my theory. So I'm going to start off by trying to dice an onion using this, and right away I can tell this really only cuts when you saw away with it, particularly in the pushing or forward direction. Is the only way that it actually cuts, which is good. It only cuts when you're moving the knife away from yourself rather than toward. But I'm used to a knife that cuts not only when you're moving it forward and backward, but also as you apply pressure downward. And so I'm used to, it does not cut pulling back, as I've discovered here. So put a bit more force behind it, and I'm trying to do it in one move, but it just doesn't work like a normal knife. It is not a normal knife. So you end up sawing back and forth in order to actually get it to cut. But it does cut. So for dicing onions, it passes the test, sort of. As you notice, it takes a lot more effort because I have to saw it back and forth. Now, for comparison, once I move all this chopped onion out of the way, compare how quickly I do it with the knife that I'm comfortable with, but also a knife that actually cuts. As you can see, it cuts not only when I'm moving the knife forward and backward, but also as I just push down. It is capable of chopping as well as slicing. And if I were to actually saw it back and forth, it would cut in both directions as well, instead of only forward. So, yeah. Once you learn how to actually use a real kitchen knife, it goes a lot faster than it does with a children's knife. But production speed is not exactly the priority when you're getting your kids to help you cook. It's going to take longer. Kids are not as coordinated, they're not as they're not as impatient as you. So they're going to take their own sweet time doing it, and that's fine. But you need to be aware of that. Um, you know, make sure that you're doing your mise en place well ahead of time if you're having your kids help. That's all I'm saying. Since I already have my regular knife at my cleaver out, I'm just going to dice this carrot, or chop it up, I guess. It's not really a good dice because the pieces are not actually cubes. But I call it dicing because I'm lazy. And as you can see, with the same sort of orbital motion, using a knife that I'm comfortable with, that cuts no matter what you do with it, dicing a carrot is fairly quick and easy, relatively speaking. Now, let's switch to the child's knife. Now again, this only cuts when you saw with it. And the carrot is fairly woody, so it does circles just fine. But unless I saw all the way through the carrot, and I tried basically chopping like I would with a normal knife, and it sort of works. It really kind of breaks the carrot apart rather than actually cutting it. And if I wanted to make batons or to julienne this carrot, it's just not going to happen. Trying to cut through it any other way just doesn't seem to work. And again, it's more like it's breaking the carrot apart, and it's sort of guiding that process. So for rough chop, if I'm making a stew, sure, I can handle carrots. It makes these big pieces.
So what have we learned about the plastic children's knives? Well, they're good for sawing away at things. So bread, they'll do okay on. Really crusty bread, maybe. You're going to be doing a lot of sawing back and forth because these are not sharp. Things like onion, tomato, soft items that still have a little bit of resistance to them. This is okay, and things that respond well to actual slicing or carving with a serrated knife, these do pretty well. For things like carrots that you sort of have to slice and then chop, things where the knife really needs to go straight up and down, or a regular actual that sort of elliptical slicing motion that you do with a real knife, not great. And even with the onion, it was not great. You still had a lot of sawing back and forth to do to really get it to bite in, because these serrations aren't actually sharp. They're just rough. So you're really abrading away your food. I'm still torn. Things, I mean, on the box it shows them cutting peppers. Peppers will work. Cucumbers, zucchini, those sorts of things. Lettuce, sure. You'll cut the berries. They also show strawberries on the other side of the box. So they'll work for some things, not all things. Now for little kids who are, very, they still have to develop their hand-eye coordination, a little bit more confidence in the kitchen. These are probably good for them. They allow them to build a little bit of confidence in the kitchen, and when you think they're ready to graduate to a real knife, they sort of have the idea already, and you can start to impress upon them the importance of safety skills, of keeping your fingers bent so they're out of the way, and even if they have to do this instead of an actual slicing motion, they understand that to hold their piece of whatever fruit or vegetable that they're cutting, they keep their fingers curved, and they're safe so that if they screw up and forget at some point, not a big deal unless they're really reefing on it. You can still hurt yourself with this if you're really reefing on it, but generally speaking, you got to screw up a whole bunch of things before you hurt yourself with one of these. But when they're ready, they have some of the skills already down so they can graduate to a real knife, and they'll be less likely at that point to cut themselves. And just be prepared that at that point they will have a revelation and they're going to say, yeah, this is crap, give me a real knife. So yeah, it's okay, and they're not expensive. So if the kids, leave them out, don't break them because they're plastic. You can leave they can leave them out on the cutting board without washing them. And you get the opportunity to yell at them about that, but it's not like they're going to rust or corrode or pit or anything like that. There is no sharpening of them because they are dull, so you don't have to worry necessarily. They can abuse them if they decide to do any number of stupid things with their knives, the knives that they are allowed to use. That is okay. This, I think, was a packet of 3 of them was $8 on Amazon. So it's an okay idea. I'm still a little torn because I like the idea of getting a good set of tools that will last you a long time and learning to master those tools rather than getting a tool that's good enough for now and not mastering it, but getting good enough that you then switch to, well, I don't have another one, but switch to a better one later, but sort of have to go back a couple steps and relearn how to use the tool because it's a brand new tool. Yes, it means that your kid might be more likely to cut themselves, but if you teach them right, it should be a small cut. And it sounds kind of cold, but that's how it is in the cooking, in the cooking industry. You cut yourself a few times, you'll learn not to do that again. and you come to accept the fact that every now and then you might cut yourself. If you're cooking while you're tired or distracted or something, you might cut yourself. And that's just a fact of life. Put a Band-Aid on and continue prepping your food. So I'm a little torn. But what do you think? Particularly those of you with kids. Would you get something like this for them? Knowing that it's pretty safe, but it's not a great tool. If you're talking about the sort of play school or Fisher Price version of things, is this actually a useful thing in your life, or do you think maybe you want to just wait until they're like 10 and then hand them a real knife and show them how to use it properly? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know if there are other products that you want me to take a look at. I just ran across this and said, what? I have to look at that. So let me know if there's anything else you'd like me to review. And other than that, I will see you next time here on Recipe Redemption. Thank you for watching.